Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, May 21st, 2018. I am Dave Biddle, and I am joined by Bill Bank Greene. Bank, good morning to you.
Hey, Dave. How you doing today?
Doing great, my man. Appreciate you joining me. We're going to talk some recruiting. We're going to talk a little bit of Dwayne Haskins as well. Let's start up with recruiting right in your wheelhouse. Ohio, some of the top prospects from Ohio that the Buckeyes are looking at, of course. Some of these guys we talked about, a couple weeks ago when you had you on the show, but there could have, things move fast in the recruiting world. Maybe there's been some updates. But Zack Harrison, what is the absolute latest on Zack Harrison?
I just think it's going to come down. He's got an Ohio State official coming. People are starting to say that Michigan is now kind of crept into the picture here. I don't buy it. I don't see it. From the people I've talked to, I still think it's two-team race, Ohio State, Penn State. Penn State has done a great job of recruiting him. This is very similar to the recruiting job they did last year on Tyreek Smith, where they did an amazing job there. But, man, it's tough to pry the Ohio kid out of Ohio. I know there's a Jack Carmen. It happens, once a decade or so. But this one, I think Ohio State, they need Zack Harrison just from the standpoint of PR, standpoint of he's a great player, the standpoint that he's 5 minutes down the road. I think losing Jack Carmen last year, they might have taken that one for granted and thought that, he was in the hopper. And they had a lot going on last year, if you remember, with Emory Jones and Jaden Woodbay, Brenton Cox. There was a lot going on there. So maybe Jack didn't get the attention he deserved or needed. Zack Harrison's going to get all the attention he needs. This is probably Urban's biggest recruit since he's been at Ohio State, just from the terms of you don't want somebody coming in here taking the top player in your state from under your nose again. So they're going to fight this one to the death. I think they're going to get Zack Harrison. I think he's so close to his mother, and proximity, I think, is going to make a difference at the end of the day. But, man, make no mistake, Penn State is battling, and they're doing a great job with Zack. My crystal ball pick is on Ohio State. No reason to change that right now, but, boy, this is not – and people have said that, Zack knows he's going to Ohio State, and he's just enjoying no, he hates the process. He hates this stuff. The day he knows the school he's going to go to, he will announce and get this over with. So he's not playing any game at all right now. He truly – I believe he doesn't know where he's going to go to college yet, because if he did, he'd end this. So I think Ohio State's going to win it, but nothing you want to sleep on.
Those are great insights right there, kind of, because you always wonder what the recruit is thinking. Is he a guy that likes the process and all that? Those are great insights, kind of behind the curtain on Zack Harrison. Obviously, Harrison, the number one player in the state. Number two player in the state, Jowon Briggs, defensive tackle, Cincinnati Walnut Hills. Now, Bank, looking at the crystal ball predictions, there's only 8 of them, but 6 of them have him going to Notre Dame, 2 have him going to Ohio State. Where do things stand with Jowon Briggs?
I don't think any of those ball predictions are going to be right, to be honest with you. He's another one. I mean, this guy is tough to read. I don't think he's really looked into his recruitment all that much. He hasn't taken a lot of visits. I don't think he talks to a lot of schools. He's a high academic kid. I think he's got a lot of things in his life that are probably more important to him than recruiting right now. He told me before he's not even going to look at it until his senior year. So this is a tough one. I don't know, because schools are filling up, and he's playing a dangerous game. The longer he waits, Notre Dame has really taken a ton of D linemen, so he may be out there. And Ohio State, they've just never seemed to be sold on him. They like him. They're recruiting him. Could they take him? Yeah, I could see it, but I think they would have the Tuatele kid from Hawaii higher on their list. So I don't know. Jowon it's going to be a fun one to watch, but I don't think it's going to get good till probably in the fall or maybe closer to signing day. I like him. He's not 6'3", 6'3.5" like he was listed earlier. He's probably a 6'1" kid, but he fights to the death. I mean, and he battles. There's a lot to like about him. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I just think his recruitment is going to be put off for a while. Where Zack Harrison wants to end it today, Jowon Briggs, he may announce on signing day.
More fantastic insights. I would expect nothing less. Zeke Correll is the number 5 player in the state. Cincinnati Anderson, offensive guard. Is he still leaning towards Notre Dame?
I think so, but I don't know. We'll see. Ohio State, I was told, feels pretty good about this one. So this is going to be a fascinating one to watch where maybe, we see all these crystal balls floating over to Notre Dame, and it looks like that's probably they have the lead right now. But this one could be one that shocks you in the end with Zeke. And I think Zeke's going to announce, fairly soon. I don't think he's going to take it all the way to signing day. I think it's two-team battle, Ohio State and Notre Dame. If you put a gun to my head right now, I think Notre Dame is in good position to land him. But Ohio State feels good about where they are with Zeke, too. And they get the last visit there. And we'll see. Like I say, I'm kind of in the middle on this one. I don't know. It's kind of going to be a fascinating one to watch. Zeke is he's a very honest kid. He doesn't lie to people. He doesn't play any games. And I think all these schools pretty much know where they stand with him. And I think it's a two-team battle here, Ohio State and Notre Dame. Going to be a fun one to watch, and I think it'll probably get good as we get closer to August.
Well, that's good if you're a Buckeye fan, because it sounds like it's gotten a little bit better for the Buckeyes since the last time I talked to you. Here's a young man I want to ask you about that has not been offered. I'm curious if he will be. He's pretty close to where you live, I believe. Jamir Thomas, a linebacker from Massillon. Do you think the Buckeyes will eventually offer him?
I don't, only because of the position. They got 10 linebackers on the roster right now. You're only going to lose Booker after this year unless somebody blows up and leaves early, which I don't see happening. So this position is not getting a lot of attention right now. And then you got to look at, where does Cade Stover play? They're saying he's a linebacker. I don't think he is, but he might be. And then Ronnie Hickman. Is Ronnie Hickman a linebacker? There's a chance he might be. And then you got Steele Chambers coming in as a running back, but I don't think too many people think he's an offensive player. I think a lot of people see him as a linebacker. So that just doesn't leave a lot of room to go chasing guys that are maybe plan B guys. If they're going to take a plan B guy, it's going to be a wide receiver or an O-lineman where they're going to take, multi guys at that position. So I think Jamir gets caught up in a numbers battle this year. I think Jameer's biggest advocate at Ohio State was Luke Fickell. And now Luke is gone, and I just don't sense that there's that much of a good feeling from Ohio State's perspective toward Jamir now with Billy Davis like it was with Luke Fickell. So I think Jamir is probably going to get caught outside the net for Ohio State in this cycle. And like I said, I would not be surprised to see Fickell land him at UC because these guys have had a good relationship. Goes back to when Jamir was a freshman.
Interesting. Okay, last Ohio kid I want to ask you about before we move on to other topics. Jonathan Allen, big offensive tackle from Dayton Dunbar. Last time we spoke, sounded like there was a strong mutual interest from Allen and the Buckeyes. Is that still the case, Bank?
Yeah, I think so. I think Ohio State is definitely where Jonathan wants to be. There's a question of whether is he a guaranteed taker right now, or is that one of those Plan B offers? You got to come to camp and show us. I think he's a taker, and I think they want him, and I think they would take his commitment today. But we'll see. Like I say, I would expect him to be in the hopper before, let's say, July 1st. I expect a commitment out of Jonathan, and I think he's very similar to Thayer Mumford as to how Ohio State views him. They're just a big athletic body that they think they can mold into someone pretty special. And Mumford was always looked at as a project when they took him, and shoot, he was on the field in no time. So I think they view Allen the same way. 6'5" kid, long arm, great feet, basketball player, good in the classroom. So there's a lot to like with him. I think he's a taker for Ohio State. I think they want him, and I think they're going to get him, let's say, within the next 3-4 weeks.
Looking at 2019 quarterback recruiting nationally, from what you know from speaking with your sources, how does Ohio State staff, generally speaking, feel about the 2019 quarterback haul?
I feel pretty good in saying that they think it's probably the worst quarterback class any of these guys have ever seen. So this is a tough one. I mean, you got to take one. Just the nature of the position dictates that you take one every year. You can't skip a year at quarterback. So, and there are some good ones out there. I don't want to, when you say that, you almost got to preface it by saying it's not like these guys are bums and they're horrible players that should be going to Akron. That's not the case at all. But, boy, when you look at the past couple of years with some of these great, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence and Phil Jerko, those guys were amazing. Well, there's no amazing this year. But doesn't mean you can't get a guy who could be a 2-year starter and end up being an all-league player, too. So I think Grant Gunnell, he's enjoying the process, gotten a ton of offers, taken a lot of visits. I think they would take him. And I don't know that he's their favorite guy. I think the guy they really like is the kid committed to Wisconsin, the Mertz kid. But I think he's pretty solid there to Wisconsin. They're still snooping around and still probing. If you look at and follow Ryan Day in the past month, he has visited every quarterback with a pulse in America. So it's obvious that they're not sold yet on their guy. You put a gun to my head again, and I know that's probably something you'd like to do, Dave, but if you put a gun to my head,
No.
Okay, just checking it. I wanted to see what the response would be. I can see a case that they will end up, working this thing out with Gunnell, where he comes to Ohio State, they take him. I don't think they can take 2 in this class. They're having a hard time finding 1. If this was a big-time quarterback class, you might take 2, just with the fact that, Joey Burrow walked out on you early. You had the injury, to the kid you took last year. So I think they would probably like to take 2. They're having a hard time finding 1. So I think that Gunnell will probably be the guy, and then you go from there. And then you look to that 2020 class where there's a lot of quality there, and there's a lot of guys that they're in on and feel good about. So, like I say, I think Gunnell will end up being the guy, and they'll go from there.
And before we move to Dwayne Haskins' conversation, I do want to ask you about Henry Gray real quick. You had the scoop yesterday on Bucknuts. You were the first one to put a crystal ball pick in for Henry Gray to the Buckeyes, or just put a crystal ball pick in, period. He committed. Henry Gray, for those who don't know, 2020 cornerback out of Hollywood, Florida, Miami Central. Again, 2020 recruit corner, Henry Gray. And he committed to the Hurricanes back in March, and you have him flipping to the Buckeyes. Tell the listeners about Henry Gray.
Yeah, he's really something. He reminds me of Garyon Conley. Although, Henry reminds me of Garyon Conley as a high school sophomore. He reminds me of what Garyon was as a high school senior. Now, he may grow into a safety, but he could end up being that big physical corner that people really are looking for now to combat those monster wide receivers that everybody seems to have. He's about 6'1" right now, probably 180. Good hips, can turn and run. He could end up being one of the top DBs in America his senior year, a possible 5-star kid. The Hurricanes got that dreaded early South Florida commitment from a kid, which almost guarantees he doesn't go to your school. This could be a guy that, decommits, commits, plays the game to the hilt, but he loves Ohio State. And he's coming up here. I think he's coming June 21st. I think he'll be on the same visit. When Jordan Battle is here for his official visit, I think Henry Gray will be here for his unofficial visit. Those guys are boys, play on the same South Florida Express 7-on-7 team. They both visited Florida together this past weekend. So the people I talk to down there tell me that he absolutely wants to get away for college. He's not going to stay local, and they just think Ohio State is his school. And I've learned over the years that these people, when they tell me Carlton Davis is absolutely not coming to Ohio State, the whole way through, even though the kid says he is, I've learned to believe them. So now they're telling me Henry Gray is not going to Miami, that he is going to get away, and he loves Ohio State. He loves what they've done with their DBs, putting them in the league, and that's where he's going to go. And I've learned to believe these guys. So my crystal ball is on Ohio State for Henry Gray.
As promised, Dwayne Haskins' conversation to close the show out. This is the first time we've talked since Urban Meyer mentioned at the Hall of Fame luncheon, a week ago to the day that Dwayne Haskins not only is going to be the starting quarterback, we all knew that once Joe Burrow left, but the comment I found really interesting, Bill, was when he said, this will change the way we attack defenses. That's just great news, I think, right there. If they hold true to that, just what are your expectations for Dwayne Haskins as a starting quarterback in 2018?
Well, I love the kid, and I love everything I've seen out of him at Ohio State. And this is in like a 180 from when they signed him. I saw him down at Under Armour for 1 week, prior to signing day. This would have been the first week of January, his senior year. And at the time, he was fully committed to Maryland, and, everybody thought that's where he's going to go. There was no thought that he would go to Ohio State. But I remember watching him every day, and I was with, I can't remember who, it might have been Brandon Huffman. I can't remember, but we watched him every day, and it was like the arm did not look good. He was short on all his deep throws. He was bouncing out patterns, and I thought, man, I heard this kid had this big monster arm, and I'm just not seeing it. Now, did he not pick a ball up from the time his season ended to the time he showed up at Under Armour? I don't know. Did he have a sore arm when he got there? I don't know, but I was not impressed. And then we fast forward to watching this guy in spring games and then watching him last year when he got into the real games, and it's like, holy crap, I was wrong about this guy. And I'm totally sold on the kid. I think he's a special talent. I think the odds are 50-50 that he has an amazing year and jumps into the NFL draft. I mean, he is the NFL prototype. He's what they want at the NFL level. He has not been what they've traditionally lined up with at Ohio State under Urban Meyer. And I think Urban is being 100% honest when he says the offense has to change with Dwayne Haskins. You cannot run Dwayne Haskins 20 times between the guards like they did Barrett. He doesn't want to do it. He's not good at it. It's just not going to work. So, and for Ohio State to take that next step, they're elite. There's no doubt about it. But I think we saw, in a shootout with, well, it was a one-way shootout with Clemson and Deshaun Watson when you're sitting on 0. Then you get into a shootout with Baker Mayfield, and you have no chance. And then you fall behind early against not really a great Iowa team at all, but it looks like it's going to be a high-scoring game. And Bosa's out. The DBs are not playing well. Well, you need to match them, and you couldn't. You couldn't do it. So with Haskins, I think you can match people now. I think they can line up and play with people. Now, is he going to turn the ball over? I don't know. Is he going to be able to make big throws on 3rd and 10? I don't know. We're going to see. My gut feeling is that he has a monster year. I think he's going to be a heck of a player. I saw what I needed to see when they threw him in that Michigan game, and they're down 6, and they're on the road, and the Michigan crowd's going crazy. And the minute he got in that game was over, and it changed. Throws are coming out quick. They're hitting guys in the hands. And for me, it was a look into the future for Ohio State. All of a sudden, people that I'm watching the game with are saying, wow, this offensive line is blocking so much better, the pass protection. And I'm like, no, it's not. The ball's just coming out on time, where Barrett holds it too long. And it's like, wow, these receivers look so much better. No, they're the same guys. The ball is just coming on time and hitting them in the chest. So now, that one game sample can sometimes fool you, but I don't think so. I think he's the real deal. I think all these veteran receivers coming back are going to help him. To me, the biggest question on the offense is that O-line. And that's not Dwayne Haskins. To me, Haskins, I think, is as close to a given as you get. And I think that line's got to hold up. And I think there's some question marks there. But if they give this kid time, I think he's going to light people up.
I completely agree with you. Great stuff, my friend. Really appreciate your time this morning. He is Bill Greene. Thank you very much, Bill.
Hey, anytime, Dave.
And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning in to the show. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Let's hear the Buckeyes flag, best damn band in the land. Flag, 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 flag.